liberty, and justice for all.
all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for all those men and women, past and present, who all protect us in our great country, as well as the healthcare workers who stand between us and the plague. Thank you very much. Please be seated. And I guess we can. We're going to start with.
I think you do. You need to do a roll call, Frank.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
and Mr. Tattelbaum.
Yes.
Okay, we are officially in session. Okay, I think we're ready for Kelsey Powers Spurlett, and I understand she's waiting, so I guess we can let her in.
Should be in.
You there, Kelsey?
Oh, yes, hi. Sorry, I was trying to connect to my phone, but if you guys can hear me okay, then I'm just gonna talk on my computer audio then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so you're only going to be on phone, is that right?
Audio.
What's that?
Are you planning to only be on phone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, there you are.
I
There we go.
apologize. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Welcome.
Great.
We could have done it the other way, but it's always nice to see you. So,
Yeah, it's good to see a face, right?
right, exactly. Okay, so we're here for to interview you for the as one of the finalists for the interim town clerk position.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be asking you some just basic questions that we have been compiled for our use. So let's see. Would anyone like to go first, Mr. Mickelson?
I'll go first.
Please.
Thank you for your application, Kelsey. We appreciate it, and hope everything goes well. My question to you is: tell us about yourself and your experience.
Sure. First, I just want to thank all of you on the select board and Mr. McInnes for inviting me for this final interview. I'm very excited about it. So I'm Kelsey Powers Spurlett. I am originally from Cape Cod, but I am moving to Dartmouth in the next couple of weeks. So a little bit of background about me. I have a bachelor's degree in political science from Hunter College in New York City. And I also have a master's degree in politics and public policy from Trinity College in Dublin, where I focused on elections, electoral behavior, and voter behavior. In addition to that, I have about 15 years experience working in hospitality in different hotels in New York and Boston and on Cape Cod. And in addition to that, I worked for the town. That was my first job. When I turned 14, I worked for the town of Barnstable for 9 years in the recreation department. So that's just a little background. I also have a little bit of academic experience. I worked for the last 2 years in 2 contract jobs at the Harvard Kennedy School, working at the Shorenstein Center, which is Media, Politics, Public Policy, and also at the Taubman Center for State and Local Government. So I have a real interest in local government, and that's kind of what brought me here today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, who would like to go next? Mr. Herron.
Kelsey, I notice you have a lot of work history in an unrelated field, hospitality. Why do you want to change careers?
Thank you, Mr. Herron. I would argue that it isn't that unrelated, because hospitality is customer service. And when you work in the town clerk's office, you are the focal point for somebody coming into the town office for a multitude of different reasons, for marriage licenses, for different licensing, for elections, which is very important to me as well. So I would say that those years of customer service really gives me a good foundation. In addition to that, I'm very passionate about elections. Like I said, I did my master's and I focused on elections and electoral behavior. And I'm also writing an academic paper that's in the process of being published in relation to electoral theory. So that's kind of what drove me into the town clerk position, because, coming up, we have elections that are coming up within the next couple of weeks. So that kind of drives me into why I really want to move into this position specifically. But more importantly, I have real vested interest in local government. Like I said, my first job was working for the town of Barnstable. I did that for 9 years. I loved it. And that really sowed the seeds for me to go into local government. I just didn't find the right path. And I think now in this part of my career, and also with COVID happening, this is kind of a good opportunity for me to kind of have a little bit of a career change and try something a little bit new.
Okay, you good with that, John?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Tattelbaum, please.
Kelsey, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for your application.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
There's probably no other position in the town hall that requires the ability to be organized and carry a major workload of never-ending detail. How would you characterize your ability to do that? And it'll be I would say, without question, the number one requirement for this job.
Sure. So going back to my hospitality experience, I'm working the front office, especially in New York City. You're kind of always on the go. There's always something happening. It's never kind of a dull moment. And you have to really balance a lot of different external things that are coming at you at the same time. For instance, you might have, it's 3:00, people are ready to check in, and you have a lot of people waiting for their rooms. In addition, you have your boss who needs paperwork that's done. It needs to be done in the next half hour. So you need to learn how to really prioritize and think on your feet quickly, which is something that I think working in those very strenuous, very high stress kind of positions kind of gets you ready for. With the town clerk's office, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that you're going to be responsible for. So it's something you just have to hit the ground running and really prioritize, be a very organized person, constantly be checking on, what needs to be done that hour, what needs to be done that day, what needs to be done that week, and just constantly by prioritizing what are the needs of, your office, what are the needs of the town hall as a whole, and what are the needs of the, external stakeholders like your public.
Well, there's certainly something to be said for handling all those New Yorkers day after day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. McDonald?
Thank you. Hi, Kelsey. The primary is coming up September 1st.
Yep.
And in the office right now, there's approximately probably over 3,000 mail-in ballots, absentee ballots ready to go. Anybody coming into this position is not going to be able to hit the ground running. They're going to have to be turbocharged.
Yeah.
And the question basically is, can you handle it? What do you have in your past experiences that will give me comfort as a citizen in this town that we will not have major snafus in the election process come September 1st?
Right.
Not so much the presidential election, because you got some time after that, but
Right.
mostly this first one.
Right.
Because this is going to be a test of mail-in ballots, not so much a test of absentee ballots, but a test of mail-in ballots.
Right.
So what can you tell me in your experience that'll give me a little comfort on that?
Sure. So experience-wise, like I said, I'm sort of used to having a lot on my plate. Working in hotels, you do have a lot going on, and you have a lot of stuff that goes on every single day, and everything is always changing. With regards to, and I'm also used to working long hours. When you work in a hotel, your day's never done. You say you're going to be there for 8 hours, you end up being there for 12 hours, and that's just the nature of the business. So, going in, and I had an understanding, because the mail-in ballots with COVID-19, there's going to be a lot more mail-in ballots, and that takes a little bit more time than somebody coming into the office to vote, early voting or voting on September 1st. So honestly, it's just going to be really long hours. I'll know that I'll have to be working, around the clock, living in my office if that's the case, because I know that the deadlines, I've been familiarizing myself with the different rules and regulations around voting in Massachusetts, that's something that I'm just going to have to be working very hard for. It's just experience. It's hard to explain to other people who haven't necessarily worked in the hospitality industry how things can change rapidly. But when you have a sold out night, you have 1,000 people in your hotel and they're all wanting something at the same time. You have limited staff. You just kind of have to put your nose to the grindstone and just work as hard as possible. And if that means long hours where you're in the office at 7 a.m. and you don't leave till 11 p.m. and you do it again and you do it over and over for weeks on time, I mean, that's just the nature of the business. That's something I actually expected going into this position, that then the first couple of weeks were going to be very long hours and a lot of work. But I'm willing and able to do it. I'm very passionate about this, and you know, I don't know if I can specifically point to something that says, okay, well, I did X, Y, and Z, and you know, I'm used to having 3,000 different things that need to be put into, you know, into a spreadsheet that needs to be sent to the Secretary of State. But knowing that I studied elections, I kind of know somewhat of the process if I haven't exactly put it into practice yet.
Well, you're talking to somebody who's been dealing with the public all his life, whether it be as a bartender, a doorman, or working in the housing industry. So,
Okay.
you know, I know exactly, without catering to transients, you know,
Right.
people who stay 1 or 2 days, I'm dealing with long-term. And
Right.
So I do understand exactly what you mean. So, all right.
No, it's a constant flow. You just have to, you take the information and you prioritize and you just keep going. You just keep going.
Flo is putting it very nicely.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you.
Okay, my turn, I guess. Let's see, I have a couple of choices here. Being a retired engineer, this would be one of my favorites, I guess. Could you describe your approach to recording and maintaining a large amount of data? And keeping track of it too, yes.
Sure. So going back to, I mentioned that I was publishing an academic paper. When I did my master's, I collected 60 years of electoral data. It was for Irish politics, so a little bit different, but that is a little bit more robust. So I was collecting information on different candidates who ran, and then a large amount of information about them regarding, you know, where they went to school, where they lived, what they used to vote for, if their father used to serve, what father served, what party did he serve for, just a very large amount of data. So I'm used to working in Excel and Access and in different statistical software such as SPSS and Stata. So I actually do have a bit of background with regards to collecting and cleansing data. In addition to that, I'm kind of a note taker. I really like to record what I do, so that if somebody were to come back and look at what I've done and they have a question about something that went on 2 or 3 months ago, I have notes on what I did. I'm very specific about leaving notes and recording information for acts that I do. So in regards to for collecting data, large amounts of data, it's, you know, you have to keep track of it. You have to have it in a way that's, you know, easily searchable and findable. And you also have to keep the original documents organized, so that if you have to go back, say, for ballot reasons, if a ballot was miscounted or it was mishandled for whatever reason, you know where you can find it easily instead of, you know, searching in a pile of papers. So in that respect, I know how to really organize data and keep the primary data so that it can be accessed.
Okay, sounds good. We have a couple other questions available. Would somebody like to ask one of those? If not, I'll do it.
I had a different question.
Sure, go ahead.
It's this, Kelsey, this is obviously an interim position.
Mhm.
Your goals about the position itself and where you see yourself a year from today or 6 months from today, based on what goes on, because this is certainly a position that's going to be able to be graded easily and defined with well definition. So where do you stand on that?
Well, I just hope that in 6 months' time, that if somebody were to look back on what I did, they know that I absolutely gave it 100% of what I could, and I served the community of Dartmouth as best I could. If this doesn't become an appointed position in the next 7 months, which I don't think, there's time to do a charter review in that time, I'm open to running for the position and continuing on. Again, this town clerk job is kind of a lifetime goal dream of mine. So, in a year from now, I hope to still be in the position, and I hope to have won my election and continue on to serve the needs of, the Dartmouth community. I just want to make sure that, coming up, that the elections are run properly, both the state primaries and the federal and state elections come November 4th. I don't know if they're on November 4th this year, but the first Tuesday of November. And just make sure that, my term, if it is only 7 months, or if I continue on, that's something that, I can look back and not be a hindrance to the town of Dartmouth. Instead, I was an asset.
So your longer term goal would be, if all worked out well, you'd like to be in this position going forward.
Yeah, for as long as I possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Mr. McDonald.
Basically, why Dartmouth and what attracted you to this job?
So for Dartmouth specifically, I've just always been interested in that area. My dad grew up in Acushnet, and he went to Bishop Stang High School. So I've always been sort of familiar with the area. Like I said, I've lived on Cape Cod for a fair amount of my life, and I just wanted a kind of a change. And, nothing on the South Shore really enticed me. But the more I started visiting Dartmouth and just spending time there, because I started exploring like where my dad came from and where my relatives live for. I have relatives spread out all around Acushnet, New Bedford, Dartmouth, and Fall River. Dartmouth really attracted something to me. I was just more of an innate feeling of, I really love this community, and it's something I want to kind of settle in. That's why I'm moving in 2 weeks to move into Dartmouth. For the town clerk position specifically, obviously the elections bit, being the chief election officer, is the part that attracted me the most. It's something that I is a personal passion of mine. I wrote an academic paper. I'm still researching and hopefully will continue to write academic papers on elections. So that's just a personal, what I do in my spare time anyway. In addition, I just think that local government in itself, local government is the foundation of democracy. I've always been very interested in politics in that respect, but I never could see myself being a senator or a representative. I'd rather serve my community more locally, as opposed to more, statewide or national. So I just thought, when I saw this position, I saw interim, I'll give it a go for 7 months. I do want to run for the position if it's still an elected position in 7 months' time. And I really think that, with Dartmouth where it is, the familiarity I'm gaining with it, and with my love of local government and, what the town clerk's office is, I just think it's a really good fit for me at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Herron.
Kelsey, have you ever worked on any political campaigns in the past?
I have not. No. I had done research for political campaigns, but in Ireland, not in America. So.
Okay.
Anyone else? Or shall I go? Okay. Let's see. What is your management style with staff, especially if you're a supervisor? And could you highlight even more than you already have, any experience you may have with actually leading and directing others?
Sure. So just as an overview, my management style is kind of hands-off, but always kind of checking in. I don't like to leave people in the lurch, but I also don't like to micromanage. I like to empower my employees or my subordinates below me in order to be able to do the best job that they can without feeling that, somebody's watching their back constantly. When I was a front office manager in New York City, I was responsible for a team of 20 from very diverse backgrounds from all over the world. Coming into that position was a little bit, a rocky start, getting to know everyone. and especially in a union shop, because that's New York City hotels are all run by unions. So that, that just getting to know people and to understand the rules and regulations around what I was able and what I wasn't able to do, getting into that kind of role is challenging at times. But I just like to think that, I treat everyone with kindness. I don't ask anything that I couldn't have done myself. I support my colleagues and my subordinates with and give them all the information, all the tools they are able to do. And if they need the help, I'm right there behind them, helping them. I just believe that, having a happy office, you get things done. And, people, not everyone likes each other right away, but I always try to see the good in somebody. Even if, we disagree on multiple levels, you always can find one aspect about somebody that, you can get along with, and you can find a common ground, and just highlighting positive aspects about people in order to, try to get the best out of them, the best work out of them, is really how I try to manage my staff. And I don't want to toot my own horn and say, oh, I was the best manager, but I really had the best relationship with my staff when I worked in New York. And the same thing when I worked down here on the Cape. I had a staff of 8 when I worked at the Holiday Inn in Hyannis. Just being there and being supportive, and making sure that they knew that there was somebody behind them helping them out 24/7 and not being in the lurch, is just kind of an important thing for me. Never treating anyone as if I'm better than them, because at the end of the day, they can always replace me.
Yes, I understand that. Just as a follow-up, not that we have this problem or expect this problem, but how would you deal with a troublesome employee?
Troublesome employees. So if there was no way to, you handle it internally first. You try to, coach and counsel. You don't want to go right to write-ups and doing, negative kind of feedback at first. But if it comes to a point where we are not able to settle our differences work-related, you just have to take the next steps. So, and knowing that the people that work under me are governed by a union, you just need to know your union rules. You need to know how to properly coach and counsel, write-ups, effective discipline, and move that way. If the troublesome employee isn't able to be, if you're not able to come to some agreement with them in order to have a good working relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Talbot.
Thank you. I have one last question. Very enjoyable interview. Nice job.
Thank you very much.
You are going to be in a job where you know very little about the specifics and the law about what the job requires. And it's obvious over your years you've learned a job on under fire, but this is like no other, because now you're talking about laws.
Right.
How will you approach that? And it's under a real time constraint on top of that. So could you elaborate on that a little for us?
Sure. So I can just start and tell you exactly what I've done so far. I went to the Secretary of State, just on the off chance I did get this job. I wanted to prepare. So I went to the Secretary of State's website, and I ordered all the laws regarding voting and elections. So I have that booklet right here in front of me, and I've been studying it. So, I know that the laws can be researched. So that's something I'd have to do in my off time. And to come up to speed as quickly as possible, since I don't know, again, like you said, the laws and the different regulations involving this job, that's something that I would have to do at night when I'm, getting ready for bed, read a couple of pages to take notes. Doing a master's degree, you do have to read a lot of information in a short amount of time and process it to the best of your ability. So I can take those skills and apply them to learning what I have to learn here. So I've taken what I can. I've mostly been focusing on the elections, because that's coming up shortly with the early voting period starting August 22nd. So I've been focusing mostly on that. But with regards to other things that constitute different different requirements for the town clerk's office, you're just going to have to do self-study outside of work. That it's just, there's no other way around that. And you know, I'm happy enough to learn that, because I'm not a kind of person who likes to go into a job and feel lost or don't like have to answer I don't know to things. I want to know that information. I want to be prepared. So I've been fully prepared to be doing long hours of study for the next couple of weeks, and gaining all that information, whether it's from the Secretary of State or Massachusetts general law, to get up to speed as quickly as possible. And also, you know, in addition to that, what other information I can't seem to find and I can't study on my own, I can use whatever contacts and research I can do to reach out to other town clerks in the area, and see if they can't point me in the right direction. It's about using, you know, whatever resources you have around you and just reaching out to whomever you can in order to get that information, because that's so important to the job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've pretty much used all the time, but I have one more question that I've asked everyone I've ever interviewed in my whole life. And it's a two-part question.
Okay.
Is there anything we didn't ask you that you would have liked us to ask? And part two of that is, if you choose, do you have any questions for us?
Questions that you didn't ask. I actually was expecting you to ask me maybe some very specific questions, like what would you think about X, Y, and Z with, you know, regards to elections, since that's coming up. So I thought you were going to ask me more detailed questions, because I did prepare for a little bit more detailed questions. And then for the second part, questions that I have for you all is, I just kind of was interested in see, you know, how much longer this time the process is going to be for appointing somebody for the town clerk position, and when you expected somebody to start. I mean, I'm ready to start right away, but I was just curious as to when you wanted somebody to start.
Part of that I can answer. We plan on having some by the end of this day. By the end of half this day, we expect to have a decision.
Okay.
As far as starting, Mr. McGinnis, what's your expectation on that?
We're hoping they could start last month. So
Okay. All right. I'll get enough time. You know.
Good
time to
answer,
think.
John.
once the board's made a choice, you know, whenever the applicant can start, you know, we're ready to go. So as soon as their schedule allows.
I can start Saturday if you want me to.
So I just have one little comment.
Go ahead, Sam.
I do want to thank you, Kelsey. You did a great job. You did a wonderful job homework-wise. You studied all about what you thought this job would bring. It could be problems, some and maybe not, and other things that are intriguing to you as far as town government. But you got a man up there in that picture over here, Mr. McGinnis, is a breadth of knowledge. And if you did get the job, he's one you could always go to.
That's really good to hear. Thank you so much. And I would love to, and you know, to work closely with you guys is something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I also want to compliment you on your interview and your preparation for it. And
Thank you.
It's very nice to meet you, and we thank you very much for your applying for this and your interest. It sounds like it's worthwhile for you and could be worthwhile for us. So, if there
The dream job for me. So yeah.
If there are no other questions, I think we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you. I see no objection from anyone, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to interview me today. It was really a pleasure.
Sure.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kelsey. We're gonna have you
Thank
log
you.
off. We're gonna stay on. Great. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
The sound is cutting in and out. Get a chance to talk to the
Yeah.
CTA.
Okay. I guess when our second candidate is ready, I guess we're all set. Anybody need any further discussion on anything before we jump into the next one?
You lose pictures here or something, Frank?
I'm sorry, what?
I lost the,
Yeah. We don't have a gallery here.
oh, there it is. Okay, you gotta go back in the gallery.
Okay.
All right, I get it.
Okay. And Sam hasn't fallen off his chair yet, so we're good.
Well, I'm working on it.
Don't move around too much there.
Don't call 911, that's all.
Okay. Ms. Aruda, welcome. Nice to
Thank
see
you.
We're going to be asking you some questions that have been pre-prepared. And we're going to take turns speaking with you. Thank you very much for being here and your interest. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Who would like to go first?
I started before, so I'll start with the same question.
Mr. Mickelson, go ahead.
Thank you for your interest in the job, Sarah, by the way. And so tell us about yourself and your experience.
Okay, so I'm a lifelong resident of Dartmouth. I have lived here my entire life except for the 4 years that I was away at college in Virginia. I'm married. I have 2 teenage children. Both attend Dartmouth High School, either remotely or in person. We shall see. And for the last 12 years, I've been working for the Department of Children and Families in a number of roles, which include working with intact families as well as foster families. I have worked as an investigator and on the after hours hotline.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Aaron?
Looking at your resume, first thing came to my mind is we have an applicant for the youth advocate.
I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But my question to you is, you have a long, good history in an unrelated field with social services. Why the appeal for the town?
So I'm not sure it's an unrelated field. I think that many of the skills that I've been able to acquire working for the Department of Children and Families and in all of my work experience has given me the skills that are transferable to the clerk's position. I think primarily it is a customer service position. You're serving the people of the town. Working for the Department of Children, I'm serving mostly children are my top priority, but I am working with families who are residents of the state. I do a lot of reporting to the state, working within budgets, working with a whole variety of populations, which I think all again are going to translate to this clerk's position. I have strong oral and written communication skills, and I work with many of the same stakeholders that the clerk's office would over at the Department of Children and Families. As far as making a leap from working at the department to looking at the town, I very much have enjoyed working for the Department of Children and Families, but it's a very, very difficult population to work with. Crisis management is, it starts to wear on you after a good amount of time, and changing your perspective, I think, will be invigorating. I am looking for new challenges and to grow as a professional. And I think that this position would afford me all of those opportunities.
Thank you.
Mr. Edelman?
Hi, Sarah. It's a pleasure to listen to you. This job, as you know, is going to have to hit the ground running real fast. It's going to require a ton of organizational skills with a workload that will be overwhelming in the beginning. How do you think you're going to handle that? Could you elucidate on that whole situation?
So as far as having a workload that is probably larger than is manageable, working for the state, that's some of what we do at the department. So I am very organized because I really couldn't survive and ensure safety and meeting deadlines without having that organization. And in child protection, it's very much about prioritizing the work and what must be done now, and what things can wait and what things somebody else might be able to manage for you. I do think that this is going to be very different than the work that I've been doing, but as far as putting in the hard work and the time, I am very important that that's what we seem to have lost Mr. Mickelson.
Yeah, he
Not
falls.
the first time. Not the first time.
Is he okay? Sorry, it distracted me.
No,
Pay no attention.
my screen is,
He's like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just one of our executives in town here.
So
Just be careful, Sarah.
I do think having a good sense of humor is going to be really important in this position. And that I would say is one of my strengths. But I do think that somebody willing to absolutely put in the time, and that's going to be long hours. That's going to be early mornings and late nights, at least probably through the end of this year, because we've got a primary, a presidential election, and in between there, we have a town meeting. And so those are all going to be areas that are going to take a lot of preparation and have very little room for error. So I think that putting in the time, asking good questions, being coachable, partnering with people within town hall are all going to be areas that are going to be important for the successful candidate.
Thank you.
I believe I was next.
Well,
I believe I was next.
Yep.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
I have September 1st is 17 days away,
Mhm.
and that is our primary date. And we have a very short window to get somebody on board. And with approximately over 3,000 mail-in ballot applications and absentee ballot applications, I'm a little uncomfortable about how this primary is going to go. I'm not too much concerned about the general election, the presidential election.
Mhm.
I am concerned about the primary. What skills and what do you think that you'll be able to do to make me feel a little bit more comfortable coming up September 1st?
So having the ability to work under pressure and be a good problem solver are going to be key in this piece. Collaboration is going to be another focus as far as making sure that the people who have been covering this position since Ms. Medeiros left and now, I'm sure that there have been staff people that are very, very experienced and well-versed in managing some of the election processes. So quickly getting a relationship with them and collaborating, asking good questions, partnering with town council to make sure that we're following all of the laws. This is certainly not Mr. McGinnis's first time doing any sort of election, so partnering with him also. And again, putting in the time, whether that's coming in early and or staying late, ensuring that I'm well prepared with the processes that are already in place, and making sure that I'm up to date with all of the policies, procedures, and laws that go along with any type of election. And also looking at some professional organizations. There are town clerks all over the state that are doing similar work, and tapping into some of their experience and knowledge so that we are implementing best practices here in Dartmouth. And again, being very able to be adaptable and a good problem solver, I think are going to be key for this primary that is 17 days away in the midst of a pandemic.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, can you please describe your approach to recording and maintaining a large amount of data?
So the information that I gather at the Department of Children and Families becomes part of a permanent record. And it also becomes part of a court record frequently. And I am tasked with testifying to the information. So it's incredibly important that I gather accurate information and assess that information, make it more digestible, whether you have 100 items or 5,000 items. It needs to be collated in such a way that people can access the information and digest that information. It's important that it be organized into usable pieces and that there is some sort of system in place so that in the event I were unavailable, somebody could easily put their hands on that information. So it's about being accurate, well organized, and putting information into digestible pieces.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? I have another one if no one else wants to jump in. Mr. Talbot, go ahead.
Sarah, your goal for this position, the short term and long term, understanding what you're getting into, could you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. So certainly in the short term, it would be getting us to have very successful primary, town meeting, and election. And then going forward from there, really learning and mastering the position of town clerk, professional development to learn all of the ins and outs and best practices. I would want to be ensuring that we were using those best practices in Dartmouth, that we were using the best technologies in Dartmouth. My hope would be that this interim position would turn into a permanent position, whether that's through an election or if it's an appointed position, I would further apply for that position.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mr. McDonald.
Well, I know the first part of this question is pretty simple because the question is basically why Dartmouth? I know why, but why this position? Why do you feel the change going from where you are to where this position is?
Yeah, so why Dartmouth? You know, I am passionate about Dartmouth. My family is in Dartmouth. So I am invested in this community. Again, I'm raising 2 children in this community. So there's nothing I want more than success for Dartmouth. As far as the shift, I'm looking to do something different with the skill set that I have. I have very much enjoyed social work, and I could easily stay with the state and after 30 years collect a pension with them. But I'm not just looking to do the time. I want to feel passionate about the work. I want to be challenged in the work, and I want to continue to grow professionally. I think it's really important that I am a lifelong learner. And so this would be causing me to think in a very different way using a skill set that I already possess. So those were the things that, as this position presented itself, that made me look to apply.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. What is your management style with staff? And please articulate any supervisory experiences that you've had.
Okay. So right now I'm working as a family resource worker. So I'm supervising 25 families to ensure that they are keeping the children in the state's custody safe and following all of the policies and procedures that incorporate state and federal laws. My management style, I would say, is collaborative. I think that we can get the best ideas if we all have the opportunity to have our voices heard and to be valued. I think communication is key. I think that I am approachable and I am open to hearing what people have to say. I think we definitely, if we're so busy thinking about what our next answer or argument is, that we're missing out on some really good and key ideas. I want the best things for this department, and it doesn't matter where that comes from, nor, you know, whether or not it's my idea or I am getting credit for it. I think if we can all collaborate, the best things can come for that department. Working at the Department of Children and Families has given me the opportunity to work with a lot of different populations and with people that are not always willing or motivated to work with me. And so I think one of the skills I would bring is being able to partner with people, and that would be other staff members or other departments, so that we can achieve our goals.
Okay. Let me just add on to that a little bit. How would you deal with a troublesome employee if one arose? Not that we expect it or have it, but you know, you have to be prepared.
Right. So I think finding out what are our barriers, whether it's that troublesome is that they can't get to work on time or they're calling in sick too frequently. I'm sure that there are unfortunately a number of things that happen when supervising people. A skill that I bring from the department is having the ability to have difficult conversations in a way that allows everybody to feel valued and respected. So certainly my first course of action would be to have a conversation about what it is that we're having a difficulty with. And when you have relationships with people and have partnered with them, it makes it so that you can have some of those difficult conversations and still be able to work effectively together. And it also motivates people to want to do a good job and to be in a position where they feel safe that they can talk with you about what those barriers are. And likely it never has to go further than that we can have a conversation. What are the barriers and how can we remove those barriers and solve these problems so that the work of the department can get done and the personnel, the person's needs can also be met.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Tannenbaum.
Yes, Sarah, you've actually mentioned a few of these, answered some of these questions already. I want to give you an opportunity to be a little more detailed. This is a job that you're going to have to hit the ground running about learning the law. There's so many rules and regulations, whether it be for elections or for dog licenses, they're there. Could you describe in a little more detail how you'd approach that kind of responsibility, knowing that this is a giant leap forward for you?
Yes. So I certainly have experience in trying to learn these policies and procedures. That's how we are governed over at the Department of Children and Families. So I absolutely see the importance and the value of that. So it would be ensuring that I had access to the documents. I am, as I said before, a lifelong learner. I have a passion for learning and understanding new things. I think that partnering with town council, I think that Mr. Savastano would be somebody that would be a wealth of knowledge that could help to get me up to speed, that could answer questions that I might have. I think that the staff that is in the office, I know that you're still looking to hire an assistant town clerk, but that there is staff in that office. And I bet that they are a wealth of knowledge also. So being able to be coachable and listen to what they have to say, I think that they probably have some information that's going to be key to my success in learning those policies and procedures. And I think Mr. McGinnis is going to be somebody who is also going to be a wealth of knowledge and have a variety of information and answers to a variety of questions that I'm sure that I'm going to have. And it's also going to take time. And I have a willingness to put the time in to learn the necessary information to be successful in this position.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Herron.
Yes. Tell me about a situation that you faced managing people where you were challenged and overcame barriers, and what actions you took, what results, and what skills you used.
So I think back to a time when I was working as an investigator and supervising families. And as an investigator, I'm working with families and they're very new to the department much of the time. And I can think of a number of families that were really not interested or willing to work with the department. And the skills I used were to partner with them and to identify what it is their needs were and their concerns, address them, and also to impart to them what it is that I needed to accomplish, and to have the both of us understand that likely we have more in common than we do in differences. So our goals generally were both of us were having a need and a desire for children to be safe. So it's helping people to understand those commonalities and work with them and partner with them. So my goal would be to not try and always be having power over, is a phrase that we use in social work. And I think that's really important. I think sometimes as a manager, both as somebody who has been managing people, but has also had managers, it's just pushing people along is not always going to be the best style. You're going to get more out of people if you're willing to partner with them. So I found I was very successful in working with some very difficult families by using respect and partnership and helping us all to achieve a common goal.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have a question that I've asked every person I've ever interviewed in my life, so I'll finish with that. Is there anything, it's a two-part question. Is there anything we didn't ask you that you wished we had, is part one. And part two of that is, do you have any questions for us?
Okay. So as far as things that you've asked me, you seem to have covered the gamut. I do just want to sort of emphasize, or maybe I would like to have some skills that I possess that would be translatable to the position. The things that I feel like are going to be most important in this position are going to be good customer service, organization, timeliness, and ability to adapt and work under pressure. Those would be the things, as have reviewed the job description, the types of things that I think somebody's going to need to bring to the job to be successful in this position. My questions for you would be, as you've worked with a number of different offices within the town, what types of things do you feel make a great town clerk versus a good town clerk?
Somebody, go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
Accessibility, courtesy, loyalty to the staff, loyalty to the town, and a willingness to think on your feet and to take criticism, recommendations, and criticism and recommendations at staff meetings if they're pointed your way.
Mm-hmm.
And to basically let it roll off and not stay here as a chip on your shoulder. I think that's what I look for people that I hire.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my position, they are going to get criticized because that's just the nature of the job.
Mm-hmm.
But I expect them to take that and move it up so that it doesn't necessarily happen again, but don't dwell on it and it becomes a problem. That's what I look for.
I would add
I think that's a wonderful description. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would add to that a willingness to cooperate. Mr. Herron.
Just two little questions. Do you commute every day to Plymouth?
I do.
And if you were given this job, how much notice do you have to give?
So the department has been good to me. And we talk about, Ms. McDonald just talked about loyalty. I certainly have loyalty to this agency that I've worked for so long, and I owe them 2 weeks notice. And that's not to say though, that I wouldn't be available on nights and weekends to start getting myself up to date with the clerk position. I am not commuting to Plymouth right now. We are 100% teleworking due to COVID. So I am in Dartmouth. I am very flexible, but I could not leave my position without some notice. And I do think that 2 weeks is fair. I also hear the conundrum that you all are having and would be more than willing to make myself available as I wrap up with my families that I currently have and make myself available to this position and kind of do the dual jobs until I can leave my current position in 2 weeks. But I do feel strongly that I owe them that courtesy.
Thank you.
Mr. Taliban.
In response to your question, which I thought was a great one, I think that I'm sure you know by now that the position, of course, is elected, and there is a major move to try to change that. And I think that how you work now versus what the transition may or may not be, because it could be something down the road that the town does not want to do and leave alone. So as an elected official, you report to the people who elect you. But there's a transition period where you have to become part of the team of town hall, working amongst the same kind of people that are there. And I think that's going to take, no matter what happens, a major transition for the position and for how it evolves. And where it's going, we can't tell yet either. So there's a lot of unknown.
Adds to the excitement.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, non-excitement.
That was a great question, though.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I want to thank you for signing up for this interview and the job potential. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and we expect to be making a decision very, very soon. And thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sarah.
I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Yes, you too. Okay, it's us again.
All right. Before we start discussing this, I got a question for Sean. With the advent of the, I don't know, the rumors of the mail-in ballots and whether or not there's a purposeful or whatever slowdown or whatever the heck it is. If somebody has a mail-in ballot, can they drop it off in the silver box in the front of the town hall?
Yes.
Okay.
I've done that myself.
Okay, I think we need to emphasize that because of all these rumors that are going around. I'm sure there are going to be somebody who is going to be very concerned that their ballot isn't going to be reached. So we need to emphasize that, you can mail your ballot in. My understanding is you need 2 stamps to mail the ballot in instead of 1. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea.
The postage on the ballot is paid for. We need to pay to mail the ballot out.
Okay.
So it's a prepaid envelope to mail the ballot.
Prepaid, okay. All right, so I'm wondering if, we should just say to drop it off because my wife is doing requesting a mail-in ballot, and I just put the card in the thing because I was going right by it. I'm old school. I want to go in and.
Well, a lot of people like to do that, but
yeah.
I think with the COVID, I think people are getting used to a little different method. And what better method is that silver box? It's wonderful. Can we put that on the website? We should talk about it at our next meeting. And
I'll check to see if it's been up there already. See if we have that information online. But if we don't, if it's not online, we'll put it on the website that people can.
And maybe just a little note inside the mail-in ballots, and to say that they could do this too.
I don't know if we can insert anything into the mail-in ballots. I'd have to check the state.
Yeah. Well, at least it's just as another drop-off. So.
No, it's a great idea, and I'll make sure we have the information up. I'll see if we can put it in the actual ballots. I don't know how strict the state is.
Okay.
Mr. Talabon.
Before we begin discussion, I want to congratulate Sean on getting us, in my opinion, 2 incredibly talented candidates with the enthusiasm that he talked about, and they had a lot of energy there. And I think that pulling this thing off the way he did and getting us 2 people like this was really well done. Thank you, Sean.
great job, Sean.
I agree. There were two good candidates were presented to us. Mr. Herron.
I want to continue what Sean was saying about the silver box. I think we should have like a vinyl sign or some lettering on it, say ballots here. That'll help matters.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, John. Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, you don't want anybody putting them in the library returns box.
The library
or
or
the U.S. mail.
Or the U.S. mailbox.
Or the regular U.S. mailbox. You don't want that in there either.
Yeah.
So
We'll do that.
great. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? How do we want to deal with the selection process?
Well, I can tell you, I wasn't quite sure about both candidates coming in. And after both interviews, I now have a hard time. I think the energy for both of them is going to be there. I think the willingness to roll up their sleeves and get right into it is going to be there. I don't have any concerns about their reporting abilities. I don't have any concerns about them willing to do what it needs to get the job done. The concern that I had was the lack of government experience. DSS, or however, whatever it's called now, is an entirely different animal. There's a different reporting type of thing, and you're dealing with people in duress and stressful situations. Going to school for government policy is entirely different from a book than actually going out and doing government policy, because what you learn in the books, probably 10% is attributable to what you end up going to be doing, because it's just the way the government works dealing with people. So there is a concern there, but I think a lot of that concern I had has been chipped away by listening to them and hearing what they had to say. And I think I'm still a little bit tossed between the two. But I ultimately, I think I know which way I'm going to go.
I don't see any of the hands, so I can tell you what my thoughts are. I think either could do the job. I agree with that. But I see a clear difference between somebody that wants their dream job and prepares accordingly, and someone that just wants to do something different in life.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mickelson.
Yeah, it's not that easy. They're both lovely young women, and either one could do a good job. But I think one stands out a little more so with her business experience. And in that kind of business she was in, satisfying, we all know how insane it can be at hotels. I'm sure Dave could tell you stories about, his warrior days. And I can tell you myself, being in an awful lot of airports and hotels. I like the business experience. I think that's the only edge, in my opinion.
Anyone else? Mr. Tellenbaum.
Well, two outstanding human beings, women, talented, confident, and they've done a lot of different work. They both, however, have to prepare for a job where they know nothing about the most important part of the job, which is the law. I was really impressed with Kelsey's preparation for the interview, studying the law, and getting as well acclimated as she could to be prepared not only for questions, but knowing that is the real success of this job. Is aside from the skills they both have, which is it will be organized and to manage workloads and staff. I think they both really are capable of that, but this is all about the law. And I think that I am concerned also that if all things being equal, that Sarah would have to wait at least 2 weeks, which is certainly the right thing to do, and they probably will require it. And that's 2 more weeks we're going to lose, which is a shame to have to say for a reason to not support her, because I think she's great as well. That is a definite consideration of mine.
I agree with that, because I respect her wanting to do the notice, because that's proper. That speaks well of her, but it's also a problem for us. Mr. Herron.
I noticed that Kelsey's work history is a little spotty, and I'm basically going to vote for Mrs. Arruda. I think she has a more, she could be more in line, and she's willing to go too. I think she's my best candidate, Mrs. Arruda.
Anyone else? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Mrs. Arruda to the position.
Do
I'll
we have a
second that
second?
motion.
I'm not quite prepared to vote yet.
Okay,
Um,
we have a motion and a second hanging there. We can continue the discussion.
I'd like to continue the discussion a bit more if we could.
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to rescind my motion to make David feel more comfortable.
Well,
You know,
we can, the motion's fine, just that before we
Right.
vote, I lean towards someone, who's a resident of town, who knows in town. It's no stranger to town, and that's a great asset. And she has this allegiance to town, which is great. I think that maybe, we could ask as part of our, hiring process to hire her, is there a legitimate request that we try to, our intention would be to, we're so hungered for immediate help that we would like to consider her ability to ask for, in COVID times, they may be more flexible. That although 2 weeks is something that everyone should give, is there any way that we could upfront ask her to shorten that time by going to her boss and say, this is kind of critical? And I think that I would like to maybe make that part of our response to her. I'm very concerned we wait 2 full weeks.
Sean,
although I agree that we need somebody right away, I think it would be inherently unfair to ask her that question.
Of course it is. I agree.
You know, and it's a difficult, I know she stated that she would be able to work evenings and weekends on this. So I'm going to take that as a yes on her, that she'll do what she needs to do to get this going. But I also have a very huge respect for the loyalty that she has.
Me too.
Also giving that. I think that's just, I mean, I get cheesed off when somebody doesn't give me 2 weeks notice.
Yep.
You know, and because my position, I need somebody, you know, I need a maintenance person. I can't, you know, wait 6 months to hire somebody. I need somebody. So I don't think, I think that'll be inherently unfair to ask her that, but I do expect that if she is going to be the person, that we take what she said at her word, that she would be working nights and weekends. So I think, you know, yeah,
Sean,
that's where I'm going.
Sean?
Which Sean?
Which one?
I'm
McGinnis.
sorry, Sean McGinnis, my bad. Sean Mack.
That's me too.
Exactly. Want to make sure you're listening.
Okay.
Sean, how do you feel about the 2 weeks, Sean?
You know, being on the other end of that, I think
I asked the question, tough question.
is definitely a necessity as a minimum. It's a courtesy. It shows, you know, a loyalty to the company, and it's just
No, I don't mean that. I fully agree with that. I mean about waiting 2 more weeks as opposed to one candidate.
I mean, you know, we want someone in here as soon as possible. We're prepared to go to the primary without an official clerk. I mean, we'll be training them in place, so they'll be learning on the fly. You know, whoever you pick is really just going to be, you know, a support staff, along with the other support staff we have, and they'll be, you know, certainly learning and have a larger learning curve. But so, you know, can we wait the 2 weeks? Certainly. It's not a deal breaker. Like I said, it would have been, you know, we needed someone like last month to kind of
Yes.
get in order to be prepared.
yeah, to me, that's not my deciding factor in any case. You know, Kelsey has a master's degree in a related field, which shows prior interest. She's also gone to the website, the state website, and printed out a bunch of documents and had all that stuff available in case she needed it. And she's been studying it all along. That shows a motivation that I didn't see in the other one.
Did we ever have Anthony Savastano answer that question about the salary since we posted it? Do we have to pay that?
Yes.
No choice. I'm not a lawyer. That you have no choice.
The way the warrant article is worded is it says the salary is fixed at, I think, whatever the dollar amount is. I can't remember. It doesn't say appropriated or up to. It's just fixed. To be that salary.
Even though it's an interim, not a,
It's the town clerk, correct?
okay.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else?
I would like to, if we make the offer to Ms. Aruda, I am leaning towards someone who's a town resident with great detachment, although Kelsey is a great candidate as well. Somehow to include in our response that you do the best, do the best you can to shorten the time if she can, and also a little more of a specific commitment about what you'll be able to do for us nights and weekends for these people.
Anyone else?
John?
What? Do you want me to make the motion again?
You already made the motion.
Well, I
No,
rescinded it.
you withdrew it.
I withdrew it. I'll make the motion. We offer the job to Sarah Haskell Aruda.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, let's vote. Mr. Mickelson,
I'm gonna hold off on voting right now. Ask me later.
okay. Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Herring,
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
I will vote no. Your turn again, Mr. Mickelson.
Yes, and again, it's a very difficult decision, but I'm a business person by nature. That's my job, my whole life. I just have this feeling that she might have been the better of the two, but either way we go, I will support Sarah 100%. But I'm going to have to vote no. But only because of that one, my gut feeling about a good business sense and the homework that lady put into this interview was outstanding. And we've interviewed a few people in jobs over the years, and this gal was very, very well prepared.
I agree. That was what swayed me. It was her interest in her preparation. That's
Yeah, but if it's 3-2, I understand that. I will support that lady 1,000%.
yeah. I personally rather see Sarah go for the youth commission job. She'd be a much better fit for that and bring a wealth of experience with her. So, but in any case, we have a 3-2 vote. So it is what it is.
But are you considering a unity vote?
I'm not going to change my vote.
All right, just want to know.
If you three want to change your vote, we can have unity, but I'm not changing my vote.
No.
Well, I'm Sean McDonald. What are you trying to accomplish? That you want the whole board behind her? Is that it?
Yeah.
More or less.
Yes.
So again, it doesn't really matter at this point. It's 3-2.
No, it doesn't make a difference.
No.
He's not
Hear
gonna
me
change
out,
his vote.
Sean. Time out. Yeah, hear me out, buddy. Yeah. Do we like unanimous, as my wife says, unanimous? So I would give you a unity vote. I'd change it to yes, for that reason, just to back her. But she has, I would be behind her no matter what, whether I changed it or I didn't change it. But you,
Yeah, I would.
if that means, if that would make her feel, I don't think it would change her ability and how she's going to react to this job. So, but I would do that. I'd give a unity vote.
I would support either of the two because they're both great candidates,
Yeah.
no matter what. But I'm still not changing my vote.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
All right.
Sounds like we're done.
Motion to
What,
adjourn. Oh, wait.
in response to her offering the job, are we gonna, how specific can we be at what we expect of her? Are we just gonna say whatever? 'Cause I think that the next 2 weeks are really important, and how she's gonna handle herself and what she's gonna do. Are we reaching out to be more specific or directive as to what we expect?
Well, from a human resources standpoint, she's technically going to be working at her current job for the next 2 weeks. She's got to give them notice. Now, she can provide us support in the interim, and that's purely on a volunteer basis.
Yep.
Then when she starts, she hits the ground running, and she's Dartmouth full time. So,
Okay, so when will we stop paying her then?
when her first day of work, which is
Day of work.
if it's 2 weeks from Monday, it'll be
The
the
31st.
31st.
I guess what I'm saying is that I was overly impressed by Kelsey's preparation in studying the law. And I think that we can kind of make up for that now with Sarah by saying, well, here's what we recommend you do in these 2 weeks. Because I would like to be able to take advantage of that.
I will certainly talk to her and give her some direction on what she can do to prepare.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll be hearing from her. She sounded like she wanted to get going and provide some support outside of her work hours as
Right.
much as possible. So,
Yeah. Maybe Sean, can you be as specific as possible to ask her to do what we'd like her to do? And it might even include shortening up the 2 week. I don't mean to keep hopping on this, but I think it's important.
Well, with all the training Mr. McGinnis has got lately, he can certainly advise her.
yeah, between myself, Mr. Barnes, and half of our staff here in Town Hall, we are
Right.
very familiar with.
And I'm not
Operations.
abdicating my respect for someone to give 2 weeks notice. But there may be a case where the state says, you know what? We're working from home. It's not working that well. Thank you very much. And it may be the case. And why not ask the question or ask her perception of that?
Well, I think she was clear. She said, she would provide as much support as she can outside those hours. So she sounded like she
Yeah.
was motivated to work
Yeah.
nights and weekends.
And
So,
I would like to be in a position we can direct her on what kind of things would be best for her to do in that preparation.
yeah, I can certainly do that.
Thank you, Sean.
John, yeah.
Yes, are there personnel that will be available to work with her after hours and Saturdays for the next 2 weeks?
Yes, so we'll be here this weekend, and next weekend's early voting, so we'll be here. So there'll
Okay.
be lots of staff
Yeah.
around.
Sean, I'd like you to do as much as you can to direct her over the next 2 weeks, whatever that means, that makes sense and she can handle.
I will
Let's
definitely.
take advantage of those 2 weeks. If in fact it is 2 weeks, maybe it'll be less. She'll be fired up and she'll want direction. I think we gotta give it to
I don't want to scare her off, David.
her.
Make sure she's on the payroll before.
Well, no. She's
just
gonna
kidding.
want to do something. I get it, and I'm really pushing this way too hard. I'm sorry, but I think it's important.
No, it's a priority. So we want to get someone in as soon as possible. I understand that. We'll,
Yeah.
I'll work with her and,
Okay.
Provide her a lot of support.
Somebody disconnect my computer. I can shut up that way.
Okay, here.
Peter, you heard him. Knock him
Okay,
off.
Dave.
I'll make
No
like
more.
Stanley.
David, you can't ask, I know you're passionate about that, but
Yeah.
it's putting her in a peculiar situation.
Sure it is.
Well, that's what you get with the whole package. And, that's the person that was chosen. So you have to live with whatever her limitations are.
No matter who was it going to be in this position, they were going to all have the same circumstances. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Before we pass that vote, I just wanted Mr. McGinnis to express our thanks again to Kelsey. And we thought she was a great candidate. So
I'll do that as soon as we're done.
Yeah, keep your resume handy.
yeah, you never know.
Really?
okay, roll call for adjournment. Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Take care all.